A train left the platform at exactly 8:17 p.m., and Nolan Mercer stood there watching its red lights disappear into the rain. He had been less than 20 steps away when an elderly passenger dropped a grocery bag, spilling oranges across the wet concrete. Nolan stopped to help without thinking. By the time he picked up the last orange, the train doors had closed. He sighed, adjusted the worn backpack on his shoulder, and figured he'd just wait for the next one. He had no idea that missing that train would bring him face to face with someone who had quietly spent years trying to find him. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner 2.0. Nolan wasn't the kind of person who believed in fate. At 34, he worked as a bridge inspector for the State Transportation Department, a job that required early mornings, long drives, and endless paperwork. He spent most of his days examining rust, cracked concrete, and steel joints that nobody else noticed unless something went wrong. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. After his father died 3 years earlier, Nolan had moved into a small apartment outside Portland to help his mother keep the family home. Most of his paycheck disappeared into mortgage payments, groceries, and prescription costs. He rarely complained. That was simply life now. The inspection that day had run late because of heavy rain. His boots were soaked, his phone battery sat at 4%, and all he wanted was to get home, microwave leftovers, and sleep. Instead, he found himself sitting on a cold metal bench while rain tapped against the station roof. Across the platform, a woman hurried through the entrance carrying a folded umbrella that had clearly lost its battle with the wind. She looked around quickly, almost desperately, before stopping when she noticed him. For several seconds, she simply stared. Nolan glanced behind himself, assuming she was looking at someone else. She wasn't. Slowly, she walked toward him. She looked to be in her early 30s, wearing a cream-colored coat over a knitted dress. Her blonde hair was damp from the rain, and there was something oddly familiar about the way she studied his face, not as if she recognized him, but as if she had memorized a photograph years ago. When she reached him, she stopped a few feet away. "Are you Nolan Mercer?" He frowned. "Yes." The woman let out a slow breath, almost laughing from disbelief. "I can't believe I actually found you." Nolan stood carefully. "I'm sorry, have we met?" She shook her head. "No. My name is Mara Ellison. We've never met." That only made him more confused. Before he could ask another question, she reached into her handbag and removed an old envelope, protected inside a clear plastic sleeve. She held it carefully, as though it mattered. "My grandmother asked me to find you." Nolan looked from the envelope to her face. "I think you've got the wrong person." "I don't." She handed him the envelope. His name was written across the front. Not in modern handwriting. In faded blue ink. Nolan Mercer. His stomach tightened. The return address belonged to the town where he had grown up. "My grandmother kept this for years," Mara explained softly. "She passed away last winter." Nolan turned the envelope over. The seal had already been opened. "I don't understand." "My grandmother owned the little bakery on Willow Street." That stopped him. He remembered it instantly. Fresh cinnamon bread every Saturday morning. An elderly woman who always slipped an extra cookie into children's bags. Mrs. Ellison. "I was 11, Nolan said quietly. Mara smiled. "So you do remember?" He nodded. "My dad used to take me there." She sat beside him on the bench, leaving enough space not to feel intrusive. "My grandmother told me about one afternoon you probably forgot." Nolan searched his memory. "I can't imagine." "You walked into the bakery with your father." A man collapsed outside. Nolan blinked. Then pieces slowly returned. Rain. A man slipping near the curb. His father running outside. Calling an ambulance. Holding the stranger's hand until paramedics arrived. "It wasn't a big thing," Nolan said. "It was to my grandmother." Mara looked toward the tracks. "The man who collapsed was my grandfather." Nolan became very still. "He survived because someone helped him before the ambulance arrived. My dad was just trying to help." "I know." She smiled gently. My grandfather lived another 14 years. The announcement for the next train echoed through the station, but neither of them moved. My grandparents never forgot your father, Mara continued. They wanted to thank him. Nolan looked down. My dad never mentioned it. He wouldn't have. She laughed quietly. My grandmother tried finding your family several times, but you had already moved after the mill closed. She explained that every few years her grandmother would search public records, old directories, and community groups. Sometimes she thought she'd found the family, only to discover another Mercer entirely. As technology improved, Mara promised she'd keep looking. It became one of those quiet promises families carry without anyone else knowing. When Grandma got sick, Mara said, she asked me not to stop searching. Nolan looked at the envelope again. Inside was a handwritten letter. Most of it wasn't long. Just gratitude. A few memories. A thank you for choosing kindness when walking away would have been easier. Folded with the letter was an old black and white photograph. His father. Standing outside the bakery. Smiling awkwardly while holding a paper bag. I've never seen this picture, Nolan whispered. My grandfather took it a week after he recovered. Rain continued falling beyond the platform lights. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Sometimes silence says enough. Eventually Nolan admitted something. My father always worried that he hadn't done enough in life. Mara looked surprised. He raised me, worked every overtime shift he could, and never thought people would remember him. She looked toward the photograph. My grandparents remembered every year. The next train arrived. Passengers climbed aboard. Neither of them did. Instead, they walked to the station cafe, where the coffee wasn't particularly good but the warmth felt welcome after the rain. For nearly 2 hours they talked. About their grandparents. About old neighborhoods that had changed. About jobs that weren't exciting but mattered anyway. About parents growing older. About how strange it was that lives could almost touch without ever meeting. Mara admitted she'd nearly missed her own train after work because she'd stopped to help another commuter carry a broken suitcase down the stairs. If I hadn't stopped, she said. Nolan smiled. I would have been gone. She laughed. So kindness delayed both of us. Weeks passed. Their conversations didn't stop at the station. Sometimes they met for coffee. Sometimes they walked through Saturday farmers markets. Sometimes they simply exchanged messages about ordinary things, recipes, weather, books, or funny construction signs Nolan found during inspections. Nothing rushed. Nothing forced. Just two people connected by a story neither of them expected. Months later, Nolan framed the photograph of his father outside the bakery. His mother cried quietly when she saw it. I always wished someone remembered him, she said. They did. She smiled through the silence that followed. Years from now, Nolan would probably forget countless inspection reports, train schedules, and rainy evenings. But he would never forget the night he missed one train because he stopped to help someone pick up spilled groceries. That tiny delay led him to a letter his father never knew existed. It reminded him that kindness has a strange way of traveling farther than we ever see. Comment: kindness still exists, if you believe even one good act can change someone's life. If this story touched your heart, please leave a like and share it with someone who still believes kindness matters. Sometimes we spend years searching for answers, while the answers are quietly making their way toward us. A simple act of kindness may feel small in the moment, but you never truly know whose life it reaches, or how many years later it might find its way back to you.